We welcome you back. We have been all over the place today talking with Alex Berenson about COVID, Harris English, the golfer, epidemiologist coming up. Let's talk a little bit about the college sports platform, especially with all the conversation out there with name, image, and likeness. And we're delighted to welcome to the program Jim Cavale, who is heavily involved in this part of the world. His company deals called INFLCR, the influencer for short, and they market an app aiding players and teams. And we're going to bring Jim on and let him explain a little bit. Jim, first of all, great to have you back on the program. It's really, we've been looking forward to chatting with you for some time.
Well, Paul, thanks a lot for having me. And I don't know if you know this, but Influencer's based in Birmingham. We're a Birmingham headquartered company. And so, you're a legend here. You always will be. And I wanted to congratulate you on the Mel Allen Media Award. I know you're going to be receiving it later this year, and it's a pretty big honor. So congrats.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Jim. It's really and it's nice of you to say. Let's start with where are we? I know you deal with a lot of young people and people of all ages involving intercollegiate athletics, professional sports. In the realm of NIL. Help educate us. I know what the NCAA has said. I know what others have said. I know what the governor of Florida just recently said. What do you say?
Well, I think first and foremost, we're here for a lot of different reasons. And I'm sure you've talked about that on past shows, whether it's the inflation of salaries with head coaches and other leaders in college sports, or just the amount of advertising dollars that have been poured into college sports as an industry. And another big reason we're here is social media. Social media has put the power into the athletes' hands and turned them into channels. And so Influencer is an app that 22,000 student athletes use on a daily basis to get content that's being shot of them doing everything they do on their journey. So playing, practicing, working out, everything that Getty, Associated Press, USA Today, and even their school is shooting is available to them through the Influencer app for them to share. And our athletes on the app build a brand that they end up having to wait to monetize at the pro level, but they build a ton of value while they're in college because there's so many eyeballs on them, and they're able to use their social media to capture those eyeballs and build an audience. And so with NIL, it's going to put power into their hands while they're still in college. But I think there's a lot of questions around the limitations. There's limitations for the university and how much involvement they'll be able to have brokering deals for their athletes, if they're allowed to broker them at all. And for the athlete, there's a ton of limitations from not being able to license the marks from their university, not being able to do group licensing in general, so they're going to have to be able to do deals on their own. And then lastly, the inability for them to, really be in a situation where they can, do things in the same categories as their schools are doing sponsorship-wise. So if their school's already doing things in soft drinks and apparel, they can't really do anything in those categories. And so these initial recommendations by the NCAA have a lot of limitations for the university and the athlete. And I think what you're seeing is the states, at least Florida, have some regulation recommendations that are a little more aggressive in how involved the school can be and in how much the student athlete can do. And the question is, what are the final rules really going to be in January and essentially in the fall of 2021 when this begins? But the problem with all of this, everything I just said, is that many leaders in college sports, whether they're ADs or coaches, are going to push this down the road because there's not a finalized set of rules yet. The most recruited class right now is the class of what? The class of 2021, who's about to be seniors in high school and sign their NLI, their National Letter of Intent. And you can best believe that just like athletics, academics, and facilities are part of the arms race, brand building and how you're going to help me build my brand as a student athlete if I come to your school is now going to take center stage in recruiting immediately, regardless of what the final rules are.
Talking to Jim Cavale from Influencer, and Jim, I wanted to talk about the NIL issue to get it, not to get it out of the way because it really is important, but it is a little bit down the road. But you mentioned maybe the most important part of this conversation a minute ago, And that's the communication of young people, and we've seen it in countless episodes already over these 4 weeks and several days since George Floyd. And some of them have been very positive. Some have created headache and nightmare scenarios for head coaches. I'm really interested in what your view of that is, and facilitating it, and really, I've asked you a bunch of things already, but where are we going with it?
I think once again, it's evidence of the power that social media has given the athlete in general, but especially the college athlete, to have their own voice. And, whether you agree or disagree with what an athlete is saying, the fact that they're taking the mic and embracing it is a product of how much they've realized they have power in their voice. And social media has done that. So as far as what it's done, I mean, we've seen viral posts from social media during the movement of social injustice, and the reactions we've seen from athletes happen where athletes are, using posts saying, we are Black student athletes, and, this is what we stand for, and tag 10 other Black student athletes and add them to this movement. And we've seen those posts through our system be shared by thousands of athletes. And then we've seen the isolated situations that you're referring to, whether it's Oklahoma State, whether it's UCLA. And I think what you're seeing is the same result as what's brought NIL to the forefront, and that is the athlete voice has always, even before social media, has always been the most powerful part of sport. The athlete has a power because the fan gravitates to them and wants to support them in ways that is just unique. And the college athlete now has that power regardless of when NIL starts and what the rules are. It's because of social. It's because of social media, because they have their own channel. And they're realizing it more and more. And last thing I'll say on it is this. The younger the athlete, the more this is going to come to the forefront, because guess what? You and I are immigrants to social media, but the recruits right now grew up with the iPhone and social media. So they actually know more about us, about the whole staff at the school they choose to go to. They know more than everyone about social media and technology because they've been using it their whole lives. So this is only going to be something that's going to become louder and louder as athletes come up through the ranks and the rules change as they are.
Jim, until recently, and it may change, but I mean, there were certain programs in this country, as you well know, that forbid players from using social media during the season. I'm guessing that changes. I'm interested in what you think.
Yeah, we have 100+ college athletics partners, 700+ teams, 22,000 athletes a day use our app to share content on social media, and not one of those teams has that philosophy, but there are outliers. And, I don't have to say the names of those teams. You know them. Those philosophies are ones that have been celebrated, in some cases where the team says, hey, we set the rule. The coach will say, hey, we didn't come up with it ourselves as coaching staff. The team said it. But the reality is this. If you play college sports, especially at the big-time level, you have a very short window, 3-4 years, where all the attention is on you and your team. And just like you want to leverage the platform to make connections when you're at networking events that your coach puts together with alumni, or the way you want to leverage the platform to make sure all the best scouts at the pro level see your talents, you have to leverage this time on social media to build a brand that employers, regardless of what you do after college, are going to look at, and you're going to be able to use to really set the stage and be the catalyst for the rest of your life. And so to not be allowed to use social, in my opinion, is going against the mission of higher education, which is to maximize the potential of a student. And the mission of college athletics is to maximize the potential of a student athlete, which social media now plays a big part in. And so I think those rules, the genesis of them, Paul, was, hey, let's set those rules because we want to stop student athletes from doing dumb things on social. We've all seen the horror stories of, DiVincenzo, the day after he wins the most outstanding player, they find bad tweets from 6 years ago, right? Those are the horror stories. But the reality is if we just focus on the don'ts, if we just tell athletes what not to do, we're missing out on the do's and helping athletes realize what they can do to not only build their brand responsibly, but represent their school and build the stage that will build their life upon after they leave their school. So I think that is going away big time, and I think recruits and student athletes are against those kind of limitations and will make choices based on it.
Well, what an incredible conversation with Jim Cavale. I hope you'll come back. This is a story that is only going to become, as you well know, much bigger and much more important. Thank you for making the time, and all the best, and thanks so much for your kind words.
Thanks, Paul.
You bet.